On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Eichert and Lehman, we discuss the latest updates on college football players being able to return to campus and talk about what some of the proposed formats may look like. We examine how OU is gaining an edge in recruiting with its virtual visits. We give you our winners and losers of the weekend. In Football Guys Talking Basketball, we celebrate the life of Eddie Sutton and discuss the return of the NBA. We finish with an OSSAA update and your Twitter questions during Keeping It Local. Please download the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those and you'll find us. All right, our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Monday, May 25th. Now we're recording this on Sunday night. Happy Memorial Day, everybody. Hope you all have safe travels. If you're coming back from the lake or you're coming back from wherever, hope you had a great weekend that was filled with American things like beer and burgers and all that stuff. And hope everyone had a great time. Now, we know why you guys are here, so we're getting right to it. Teddy, we're getting right into college football news because players are officially coming back to campus. Let's go.
It's about time, right? I mean, we're less than 100 days away. We've been speculating about this since early March, second week of March. We've been talking about this.
We've been trying to come up with all kinds of plans, and it's this easy. Hey, June, perfect. All right, let's roll.
I think the mental hurdle, right, as far as trying to figure out a plan and what are we going to do when we get them here? What are we going to do as far as living arrangements and testing, all these things? Let's figure it out as we go, kind of like we have everything else, right? Let's get the guys back and we'll figure all that out as we go. But I think just the hurdle of finally getting some action. Maybe it's just me, but I like that there's finally something happening that we can talk about instead of all the speculation.
Yeah, I don't think it's just you because when you think about it, and just as a sports fan, and not like with our association with OU and that being part of our job and all of that, but just hearing that college football players are going to be able to come back to campus, I don't know why it weirdly brought me a sense of comfort. And I know that there's still a lot to be learned about the coronavirus, and there's still a lot of details to be ironed out about what these protocols are going to be and what happens if a guy tests positive. But this is a great step. I think that sports fans across America are just thrilled to see that, okay, these guys are getting back, and it seems every indication we're getting is that college football is going to kick off on time. Now, I know that we're not sure what the fan situation is going to be, what are the stands going to look like. I don't know if we'll know until a couple weeks before it happens, but the fact that the SEC comes out and votes that voluntary football workouts can start June 8th, which I was shocked it wasn't June 1st for the SEC. June 8th, I was like, look at them. Look at how thoughtful they're being.
I think that's what they're saying, right? It's like, okay, we have to at least show that maybe college football isn't the only thing we ever think about. So let's just give a little bit of a buffer there. I thought it was fantastic. And if you're like me, Gabe, one of the only good things about being done playing football, like, because we all wish we could play forever, but knowing that in June and July, that some poor bastard somewhere is curled over after running
Oh,
sprints, puking. That makes me feel so much better about where I sit in life, right?
uh,
I'm
for
supposed to be happy not doing anything and knowing that someone is miserable somewhere.
it brings me peace and comfort knowing that young men across the country are going to feel like they're going to die during the month of June. Now,
That's how it's supposed to be.
not coronavirus die, but literally so much running that they feel like they're going to pass away. I want them to feel the feelings that we felt, Teddy. And I I don't know if that makes me selfish. I don't think it does, but June and July are where college football players are made. I mean, it really is, and you know as well as I do. Those are the stories you talk about when you're done playing. Yeah, you talk about the games, but really the things that all the guys I played with, all the guys you played with, we talk about those summer workouts. And I know it sounds weird, but I'm glad that those guys are going to get to experience those.
I'll tell you this. If we would have had a pandemic whenever I was at school and Jerry Schmidt was there, I know that 50% of the guys on the team would have been begging for a positive test for the COVID to get out of workouts, begging, trying to like figure out a way that they could doctor the test or something to get out of having to work out for a couple of weeks for sure.
Oh, and I still every once in a while I'm like, okay, I need to do something to make me feel like I'm going to pass away. I know I'm weird, but I think some guys are going to feel that feeling again in June and July and be like, I kind of miss this. And I know it sounds weird, and if you haven't gone through it, it's kind of hard to relate to. But I'm excited for those guys in the SEC who are going to get back at it on June 8th. Now, the Big Ten and the ACC have decided that they're not going to make any blanket statements for the members of their conference. They're actually just going to let every school decide themselves. Sounds like Louisville is going to be the leader there in the ACC. Yes, Louisville is in the ACC. I know a lot of people may not realize that. They've been in like,
Wait a
seems
second.
like,
I thought the ACC was just Clemson, right?
yeah,
They're an independent. Isn't that the only person in the ACC?
pretty sure that's how it works at this point. But uh, most importantly, around here, the Big 12 comes out. They announce that football players can return to campus for voluntary workouts June 15th. Now, that seems extremely reasonable. We were worried about the Big 12 falling way behind the SEC just 1 week later. That's great. I mean, I think that Bob Bowlesby in the Big 12, and there's a lot of great leadership in the conference. I think June 15th is a great date to come back. Now, an interesting part of what Bob Bowlesby said over the last couple of days, he said he expects players and staff to be tested every 2 to 3 days. I don't see how that's realistic at all. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. I want these kids to be tested as often as they can be tested. I'm all for that. But when you think about the monetary value attached to testing 100 plus people every 2 days, that starts to add up really quickly for some of these schools. And we talked about it on the last episode. I just don't know if some of these schools are willing to spend that amount of money on this stuff right now. Now, I'm sure each school will have their own testing protocols, and all kinds of schools will have different approaches, and we'll see how that all plays out. But I just can't imagine every 2 days, Ted.
Yeah, I mean, that seems overkill to me. Now, obviously, you want to figure out if someone does, get it and you want to find it before they pass it on to the entire locker room. There's no doubt about that. But logistically speaking, that does seem like it could be very difficult. Now, I don't know. Obviously, the medical staffs. That's a great thing about big time Division I college football is they've got a full time devoted staff there that are in constant communication with right there OU Medical, all that. They've got a lot of resources at their hands, and I know some universities are better than others, but I'm sure that they've got something in place, a plan in place that they can follow to get the guys tested very routinely. Does that mean every 2-3 days? Does that mean every start of each new week? I don't know what that means, but I feel confident that they're going to be tested enough to feel safe there for sure.
Yeah, and especially in the Big 12, you look around the conference, you mentioned Texas, OU with OU Med, Baylor with their hospital system. There's some really good med schools attached to these universities. So I'm sure they're working with all those people, and I'm sure it's going to get worked out now. Is there going to be a system that everyone agrees on? No, I think everyone's going to do their own thing, and I think that's the way it should be. I mean, you know what's best for your institution, or I like to think that's probably the way it works. But
Well, I mean, it's we've kind of seen this across the country that there is no one size fits all.
right,
The University of Oklahoma shouldn't be doing the same thing as a university that's in New York City or New Jersey that's obviously hit a lot harder than we are. So I think that's one of the good things is trusting these universities, their athletic departments to put a good plan in place given their current situation. So I mean that's why I liked what the Big Ten and the ACC did, because when you look at some of these conferences, there's a ton of distance between
yeah,
individual schools.
yeah, it's like
We
the
spread
ACC. There's like 9 states in
right.
that
So,
conference.
and every state has a unique. This virus has impacted them uniquely. So I think that's kind of the best way to do it, and it doesn't hold back the entire group for a small percentage that may have to wait. You've got to continue, and if those teams have to wait to be smart, then everyone else can continue to get their work in. I like it.
Yeah, and just looking at the local angle of things, we've talked about Lincoln Riley's statement saying that players coming back June 1st was one of the most ridiculous things he's ever heard. Well, what about June 15th?
It's less ridiculous,
It
but
it's it's 2 weeks less ridiculous. Now, Joe Castiglione, he comes on Sports Talk 1400 where you do your show, Ted, and he made it very clear. Oklahoma is not going to feel pressured to come back when other schools do. Now, when he said that, he was referencing June 1st. And he said the risks far outweigh any of the positive gain they might have for those few weeks. I don't know if that line of thinking shifts with the date being June 15th, but I can't imagine the University of Oklahoma, who has dominated this conference in football, I can't imagine they want to get started later than their competition. Now, it's going to be interesting to see. Maybe it's June 22nd. I don't know. But as far as what I've been told, they have no plan earlier than July 1st right now at Oklahoma. Now, things can change rather quickly, and I would anticipate them changing quickly. I know that they've been ultra cautious when it comes to this entire thing and their approach to it. But June 15th, they've been working on these plans to bring guys back. They've been doing all these models. June 15th seems more than reasonable to me. June 22nd at the absolute latest. You can't let other teams get 2 weeks, 3 weeks of workouts before you guys get back to campus. That just can't happen when you're a program like Oklahoma.
well, a couple of things. Um, I know Joe C says that they're not going to feel pressured to get back, and that's probably true until people are back and you're not. Right? Whenever we're all just sitting around and nobody's back practicing or working out, it's easy to say, well, we're going to be cautious. We're not going to jump the gun on this thing. But whenever everyone starts hitting the weight room and the practice field and you're not even back at your university yet, then I think the pressure will ramp up a couple of different ways. It'll ramp up internally, coaches all of a sudden feeling like, well, crap, we're losing ground to everyone else. And then externally, the pressure is going to ramp up, because you know that if you report 2, 3, 4 weeks after everyone else and you lose a game or two during the season, it's going to be the first thing that's brought up is, do you think the extra time that they had in preparation over the offseason was a factor today? I don't think it will be. Like, honestly, is that going to be the difference in a football game? I don't think so, but that doesn't mean that people aren't going to ask it and write stories about it. So there is going to be some pressure there. Now, if I had to guess, I would say that June 15th, whenever the Big 12 is given the okay to come back, I think OU is going to bring their guys back. But I think that they're going to keep them in like an extended quarantine and then test everyone and then start working out. So they may get their players back the 15th, but not start working out till maybe July 6th. Because here's the thing. How much sense does it make, Gabe, if you're a university, you bring in 100 guys, you test everyone, you go through some workouts, and then 4th of July holiday comes around and
guys never do anything over the 4th of July.
right,
They won't mingle with anyone. It's
right.
fine. It's not like I'm at Grand Lake right now for Memorial Day, just watching all kinds of boats tie up with each other and everyone hug and shake hands. It's that stuff doesn't happen, Teddy. It
Yeah,
doesn't
I mean,
happen. Come on.
I'm sure you saw, if you had $1 for every 20-foot boat that had 30 people packed into it,
If I had $1 for every handshake I turned down in the last 3 days, I'd have a fuck ton of dollars. And I've made it very clear, hey, I'm not shaking, I'm not doing anything. I'm doing what I got to do. My wife's high risk. I mean, I make all the excuses, but there's no doubt. You've seen some of these videos from like a place like Lake of the Ozarks where
oh
there's
yeah.
1,000 people in a swimming pool. So yeah, that's a really interesting way of thinking. I hadn't
So
really thought of that.
that's why I
4th of
don't think it's going
July,
to be until post 4th of July.
that
I
makes a lot
mean,
of sense.
because OU they've put themselves in a, either accidentally or purposely, they've put themselves in a situation to where they're going to have to look like they're doing more than everyone else, kind of, given the
It,
circumstances and the statements. And so
they,
I think that it may be a post 4th of July actual back on the field type of deal for them.
they have been pretty vocal throughout all of this. Joe Castiglione has talked publicly, and I think it's for good reason. I mean, he's one of, if not the most respected athletic director in the country. Lincoln Riley's been outspoken. Now he's framed it that it's all about the safety of his players, and I think he's framed it properly. But yeah, I think you can make the case that a lot of people are looking at Oklahoma as one of the leaders in this entire thing and kind of wondering what they're going to do. So maybe it is that late. Maybe it's, hey, after 4th of July, we'll get rolling, because remember that mid-July cutoff, right, is the
6
date
weeks.
that has been floated for weeks and weeks, that stuff needs to start happening for football to be played on time. And there are some discussions right now about a 6-week program where there would be 2 weeks of NFL style OTAs, meaning practice with just helmets, glorified walkthroughs where you're getting reps on the field, but you're not able to wear pads, so you're reducing the contact. There are discussions of a 6-week program with 2 weeks of those OTAs and then a 4-week training camp starting in August, getting these guys ready to play the season. One interesting thing when you think about that approach, because I think they're trying to make up for the spring practice that a lot of people miss. Some people may not realize 52 of 130 FBS programs never even started spring practice. None.
Yeah.
So how do
I don't
those
think anyone
guys,
got in more than like 2 or 3 practices, right? At
yeah,
the most.
I mean, how do they make up those reps? I don't know if they can, but it's going to be really interesting to see what will the time restrictions be when these guys get back. Now, the NCAA extended the 8 hours of virtual film review through June 30th. Now, that's, I guess, 2 hours you do. Now, I assume that they break it up in 30-minute meetings or hour meetings. I'm sure everyone has a different approach, but that's still not that much time when you think about all the time they missed in the spring. So I wonder, Ted, if they're going to expand some of these time restraints, especially if they only have a 6-week window. You got to jam so many things into that window. You got to give these guys some more time. You got to give these coaches some more time with these guys.
Well, I think one of the most interesting parts of this is going to be like freshmen, incoming freshmen that you thought were going to be able to, like early arrival guys, and even just guys that show up on the traditional time. You know, that contact with your coach and your teammates doing whether they're organized activities or unorganized activities, learning the defenses, learning the offenses, just getting some type of baseline information as to how your offense or defense works is critical. I mean, if you step into like some type of training camp and that's where you're just now getting all of your basic baseline information, that's incredibly brutal. And it's tough, and it will set those guys back a long ways. But, a lot of people, aren't relying on freshmen to play a whole lot, but some people are. And, a couple of different position spots that could make a difference for a guy, at least early on in the season. It's going to be like drinking through a water hose if you're a freshman and you've got no baseline as to what exactly you're going to be doing. It's going to come at you a million miles an hour.
I, I'm going back thinking about what I was thinking when I was a freshman coming in at OU, and even just going through 7-on-7 in those voluntary workouts during the summer. My head was
It's like, are
spinning.
people speaking Greek? What is going on? I don't
And
know what's happening out
everyone's
here.
so big and fast. You're just like, wait, what the hell? This is a lot different than Bishop McGinnis High School. And that learning curve, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many impact freshmen we see across the country, because those guys, especially the ones that were supposed to come in early and go through spring ball and make a big impact, I don't know if we're going to see what we've become used to seeing from some of those impact players. I That's just a lot to learn and a lot to get up to speed with in 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever it's going to be. But man, it'll be really interesting to see if some freshmen step up across the country, and not just for Oklahoma, but anyone in the Big 12 across the country, because I will be really, really impressed if they do, because I remember going through that and just being like, ooh, I was not ready for this.
Well, there's a couple positions where you traditionally see true freshmen uh, can play a little bit more. It's usually like corner, where your responsibilities are fairly simple. You
You've
either
got
got
that guy.
you got that guy, or you've got this section of the field. That's it. Defensive line, where you either can do it physically or you can't. There's not a whole lot of thinking that goes on there. Wide receiver, running back, some of those spots. Offensive line is way too technical to feel like you can rely on a true freshman. And obviously, if you've got a center or someone in there that's got to call protections, and that's a whole nother animal. Safety and backer is very difficult because you've got run fits, you've got pass responsibilities, you've got to set the front. There's so many things that you've got to do. It's really hard as a true freshman. I think one other thing that could be a factor in this, depending on what it looks like, if we've got a 6-week period going into the fall season with guys that have had an extended amount of time alone, I think there's a big chance that we see an uptick in injuries, not bad injuries, soft tissue stuff, hamstrings, guys pulling a groin, pulling a calf muscle, injuring a shoulder, you're not calloused yet. So what happens is, since you've condensed all of this time into this little window, if you've got a 3-week hamstring pull, think about all of the time that you're missing your spring, you're missing the first part of camp, because it's all condensed down into this small little window. And that's going to be the thing that teams are going to have to be smart about. We've got to get all of this in, but we've also got to protect our players, because
can't be too aggressive with
you
it. I mean, you
can't
can't push the
afford.
guys too quickly.
Yeah,
And I'm sure different teams are going to have different approaches to it, but that's got to be the focus is, hey, we've got this condensed preseason. We've got this spring ball and training camp combined. We need our guys to be healthy when games are played.
that's
When we're keeping
yeah.
score and it matters, we need our guys on the field. We got to do whatever we got to do to make sure they get to those games healthy. And if they pull a hammy during a game, okay, so be it. You can live with that. But you can't just go with an ultra aggressive approach and have a bunch of guys hurt before you even kick off. I mean, that would just be idiotic.
That's whenever, like, veteran teams that have upperclassmen, in a bunch of starting positions
That
on
know
offensive
how
defense.
to practice.
Exactly. Because if not, Gabe, this, you've seen it before. You go out there in early spring or an early training camp, you've got practice heroes, that are trying to prove
Fucking hate
themselves,
those guys.
and whatever, and someone goes in submarines a star wide receiver, or is going hard in a lighter drill, and you end up getting guys banged up needlessly. So people, like, exactly like you said, you've got to have veteran players that know how to practice, know how to compete against one another, but not get each other hurt.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what the format's going to look like. Is it going to be 6 weeks? Is it going to be 8 weeks? Hell, guys, I don't care. All I know is that it looks like college football is happening on time, and I could not be any happier. I really couldn't. One thing that has become pretty interesting about the local angle here for the University of Oklahoma is recruiting. Now, everyone is taking different approaches during this time, right? They've extended the dead period. There's no kids able to come on campus for visits, stuff like that. But according to OU's director of recruiting, Annie Hansen, OU has conducted over 40 virtual recruiting visits since the quarantine began. Now, I was really curious what these looked like and what they were structured like. So I asked, clearly still close with a lot of people on that staff. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail of what they're doing because I do think they have a competitive advantage over other schools with what they've put together. I truly believe that. I don't think there's many, if any, schools across the country that have done a better job than Oklahoma has done with their recruiting in this entire messed up situation. I will say this. They have done an unbelievable job personalizing their recruiting approach during this whole thing. It is not a generic video for each guy. It is very personalized. They've done an incredible amount of research to make it that way. I assumed that it was just going to be some cookie cutter video. Hey, you play it, each guy gets the same video. My God, was I wrong.
Huh. That's cool.
I mean, with the stuff that I was shown, it is next level shit. And I truly believe the longer the dead period gets extended, it's an advantage for Oklahoma with how creative Annie Hansen and Zach Heffley, and that entire recruiting team at OU has become with this whole thing, and the reactions that they're getting from recruits during these videos, kids, because they can see their live reactions and they can talk to these kids about what they've seen and done with other schools. And it seems like every kid is telling them, oh, this is by far the best thing, the most personal thing, the most information driven thing that I've gone through. I think OU is doing the best job in the country of recruiting right now. Now, you'll never be able to replace getting a kid to campus for the spring game or for a Saturday in the fall. Like that will always be a strong recruiting tool, as well as getting guys drafted in the NFL. But under the circumstances, Ted, OU is crushing this. I'm just telling you, I wish I could talk more about what I've seen and what I've been told, but I don't want Lincoln Riley to kill me, so I'm not going to do that. But it's really, really impressive stuff. I don't know if shocked is too strong, but there was a couple times where I was like, wow, that's something I wouldn't even thought of. And I guess that's why they have those creative people to do that shit.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a massive advantage that the University of Oklahoma has over almost every school in the country is that the Big 12 does not have a conference network. Yes, that is an advantage. Why? Because they do all of that video editing, putting out all of their own marketing stuff. They do it in house, so they have capabilities up there at Sooner Vision. And like, if you've never seen that place, it looks like an ESPN style studio with all the capabilities that they have. So they can do far more than most schools are set up to do. So they've got the infrastructure to be able to do some really, really impressive things. So that's key number one. The other thing is, for the longest time during this pandemic, the dead period, the players not being on campus, whenever everything's equal and nobody has their kids on campus and can work with them, it's a massive advantage for OU, right? That's whenever you have the most ingenuity, the most forward thinking, the smartest, the brightest, the hardest working. That's where you can gain an advantage, right? If we've got better coaches, we can actually out prepare people over this given time. So that's like, it's extremely motivating for a coaching staff, for a recruiting staff, marketing people. This is it. This is how we can gain a massive advantage, because during this period, it's not about how talented our players are. It's about how talented we are and how can we get the most out of this period. Now, this period's about to run out, right? Because it's not going to be equal anymore. Some people are going to show up June 1st. Some are going to show up June 8th. Some are going to show up June 15th. Some even later than that. So that advantage is going to start to run out. And how do you make that up in the time in the future? We'll just have to see. But as of whenever everything got shut down to where we stand right now, I think you can look at the recruiting results that we've had. You can look at a bunch of different things, but Oklahoma, I think, has really outperformed almost everyone in college football. We'll see what happens from this point forward whenever it's hands-on with college footballs, but making use of the time that they've had under the circumstances, they've been fantastic.
Yeah, and I think that they've developed some things that they're going to continue to use
Yeah.
moving forward, because they've gotten some really good results with some of the things they're doing, and they're just going to become staples of the recruiting process for Lincoln Riley and his staff. And it is interesting with the staff, because you see these staffs trying to get back into the office, right? And they're having to do these temperature checks and jump through these hoops, and they're limited on how many guys they can have in the same room. One interesting thing about Lincoln Riley and his staff, Lincoln Riley, he doesn't feel limited at all right now.
Mhm.
He thinks that they are operating maybe at an even higher level. Now, of course, when you start game planning and doing all those things, you want to be in the same room, right? You want to have that personal touch on things. You want to have that collaboration. But with what's going on in the college football calendar, I think Oklahoma staff is looking at it from the viewpoint of why would we come back into the office and limit ourselves when we've been able to work full days, even maybe work even more than they did in the past and get great results? Why rush back into the office? Which I think is a really interesting way of looking at it, Ted.
No, it is, and I think there's a way to kind of pinpoint who's embraced this and who's ready to get back to the old way is kind of the age category, right? And you look at
Right.
Oklahoma staff, this is an incredibly young staff. You know, your head coach, your defensive coordinator under the age of 40. You know, you've got a lot of young guys that can operate, you know, at home with their computers, with their smartphones, with those different devices and not really miss a beat. And then you've got the old school group, which, you know, I don't think that there's a big difference between the new approach and the old approach until you're forced out of those norms and into a situation where you can only use the new devices that you have, the new technology. I mean, you get a couple old football guys in a conference room talking ball, and they can, you know, run circles around a lot of people just because of all the experience they've seen and all the different stuff that they've witnessed throughout their careers. Now all of a sudden you can't get those guys in a conference room to start breaking down what an opponent does. They can do it on Zoom, but it's not the same. I mean, people, if they can't have that person-to-person contact, they don't feel as engaged, and they're probably sick of it and tired of it and not nearly as motivated. The younger group that's more used to this type of stuff is probably motivated by it and not nearly as affected. So I think there are some older staffs out there where this could hurt them pretty bad.
Yeah. And I think that young staff at Oklahoma,
Can you imagine Coach Snyder at Kansas State if this is
oh
how things would have to
my
have been done?
sweet Jesus. I oh, what he would have just retired. He'd
All
been
right,
like,
see you
"Nope,
guys.
I'm out. I'm out now." Hey, I think Chris Kleiman, they're already back in the office. I'm a big Kleiman guy, but I would pay good money to see how Bill Snyder would have handled this entire thing. You can't write these kids all handwritten notes, Bill. It
You'd
just
have had
wouldn't have
like a.
worked.
Can you imagine? You'd be going to the mailbox every
I'm
day, and
just
you'd have
mad because
10
I
notes
never
from
got a
Coach
handwritten
Snyder.
note. I just took that shot at Bill Snyder because he never wrote me one, and for some reason it made me upset. I don't know why. I don't know if I deserved one. I probably didn't, but it would have been nice to get one, Bill. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Well, we've got that in common. I never got a handwritten letter either. So, but that's
Wow.
funny. I mean, think about it. I mean, the younger staffs are going to have an advantage during this thing. I think that's true.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, and we'll see what some staffs have learned during this whole thing that they'll carry over and just make it a staple of their program. I'm sure that some of these schools have learned things where they're like, okay, yeah, we're doing that from now on. And I think Oklahoma is one of those, especially with what they've done with their virtual recruiting. I expect that now. Once again, this is a moving target. The rules have changed for the virtual recruiting. Now you can have it, you can have a kid pop into a position meeting with you. I
Yeah.
think they can only do it once, but those rules have changed, and who knows how that'll be in the future. I mean, this is something that the NCAA is going to have to look at, and they'll probably establish guidelines. But I think coaching staffs are going to utilize a lot of what they've learned in these last couple of weeks. Now, Ted, let's move on in this Memorial Day edition of the Oklahoma Breakdown. Let's move on to our segments, and let's start it off. Winners and losers of the weekend. Like our man Toby Key says, we got winners, we got losers. I can tell you White Claw, Truly, all the hard seltzers were a winner for me. But who you got as your winner of the weekend?
No, I agree with you on that. We had a little bit of a pool party get together, and I don't know what happened, but I got overserved. I'm not exactly who's to blame, but someone out
I,
there.
I know one thing. It wasn't your fault.
I know that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. I don't know. I'm gonna get to the bottom of it and figure out who overserved me, but definitely a lot of seltzers going on. I think there was a lot of tough guys out there for a long time that just wouldn't do it. Right? Too big of a man to drink a seltzer. That's gone. Everyone across the board's into the seltzers now. Pretty
You
amazing.
you
I
you know
never.
what's
That's something
manly?
I never would have guessed. By the
You,
way, too.
you know what's manly? Being happy. And
Hey,
those things are fucking delicious. I
I've
don't care
said
what
that.
anyone take my man card. You can have it. Don't care. Give me all the hard seltzers. All the hard seltzers that the tough guys don't want. Just bring them to my house. I'll
Drop
take
them
them
into
off your
my
hands.
ice chest. No, that's definitely true. And all we're missing now with the seltzers is when are they going to drop the caffeine in there? Because the Red Bull still has its place. The Red Bull and vodka is still around, but as soon as you drop some caffeine into the seltzer, then it's the perfect drink,
The
right?
game will change.
My winner is Camping World, which is a very strange winner, but given the pandemic and the way everything's been going on recently, we just had, or in the middle of having, the biggest lake weekend in the history of our country. There is more people at the lake right now than there has ever been before because you can't do anything else, right? People are camping, people are boating, people are fishing, people are outdoor. Camping World is a business that 6 months ago was literally about to shut the doors and declare bankruptcy. And they're about to have the best quarter in the company's entire history. It's amazing. I was talking to a friend that's has a boat dealership, and he was telling me about, like, there's not even, you can't even get boats anymore. They're all sold. They're gone. The boat inventory is completely depleted. It's been an amazing run, and from a former lake guy, I haven't been in 6 years, but I think that's awesome that people are out and about, camping, outside. And I think that a lot of people are going to say, whenever this is done and we're back to normal life, are going to say, you know what, as a family, that was so much fun. We need to get outdoors more often and do some things outside. So I think it's a big bonus for everyone.
Yeah. And I took advantage of the lake weekend, and we're still up here
Hey,
at
and the
Grand
weather
Lake.
was a lot better than we
Okay.
got 2
So,
days.
and you know how much I love the weathermen in Oklahoma, hardest working weathermen in the world, meteorologists. They get paid the big bucks for a reason. The weather in Oklahoma is ridiculous. It it was allegedly supposed to rain all weekend. It has been absolutely perfect
Yep.
here at Grand Lake. And listen, I don't get mad at the weathermen when they're wrong, but I sure am glad they were wrong because it's
Me
been
too.
awesome.
It's been fantastic. Like, yeah, we had a pool get together, as I said, on Saturday, and it's like we better start this thing early. We may only get 1 or 2 hours of sun. We had sun the entire time. I woke up this morning, I saw the sun coming through the blinds. I was like, wait a second, it's supposed to be raining all day. We had sun all day again today. It's been fantastic. I'll tell you where they didn't have sun, and this is where my loser was. And I feel bad for the guy, Tom Brady. um, it, he's not a good golfer. Okay, that's abundantly clear.
He did hole out on that one, and I was like, okay, Tom, just calm down. Now he did split his pants like a fat kid, which was hilarious.
It was just the worst day ever for Tom Brady. It was pouring rain for a big chunk of it early on. He's a terrible golfer, and the only thing worse than being a terrible golfer is being a terrible golfer surrounded by great golfers and being on national television. My dad, not a golfer. Okay. I got into golf, started playing in high school, early high school, and wasn't very good at it, but I had fun playing. And my dad, who's can probably count the rounds of golf that he's played in his entire life on one hand, said the only way to have fun playing golf is to always play golf with people that are worse than you. And Tom Brady did
God,
not follow that advice.
your dad is a wise, wise man.
That had to be the most miserable day
It,
ever.
and he was obviously, now clearly, Mickelson and Tiger are on a different planet when it comes to golf, but I did not know Peyton Manning was so good.
He can ball.
He's legit. And I know we talked about the props, and he was favored over Brady in every category. And now I know why. It's because the guy can absolutely play. And that's why he's my winner of the weekend. Peyton Manning, not only did he get to flex the golf game, which I was jealous. He's way better than I'll ever be, and I'm just going to have to accept that. But he absolutely crushed the trash talk.
Oh, he was
He's
fantastic.
and I know we've seen him do the commercials, and when he did Saturday Night Live back in the day, like, he's funny. But when he was talking about, even before it started, when he was saying, "Oh yeah, I thought about Nick Foles, I thought about Belichick," he's just talking shit to
Or his
Brady on the
caddy.
range. I I was like, this guy is the best guy ever. And then he started golfing. You're like, okay. And him and Tiger won easily over Phil and Tom Brady. But I don't think anyone came out of this better than Peyton Manning. I mean,
No.
he
We
just
learned a lot about everyone.
he became even more likable, which I didn't even know
Right.
was possible.
I think we learned a lot about all four guys because you've got an extended time with them on camera and on mic doing something. I know Phil and Tiger are used to it, but it's out of their comfort zone a little bit. And Peyton flourished, right? He was funny, he was engaging, he played well. So that's about what we'd expect from Peyton Manning, right? He's smart, he's funny, he's a gifted athlete. I mean, it was perfect.
He
Tom
he's
Brady,
he pulled off the black golf glove, which is
yeah,
hard to pull off.
he had two gloves on at one time, which he even pulled that off. Tom Brady was exactly what we've always thought: awkward, kind of dorky. Just he almost fell over one time when he was putting his ball on the tee. It was just clunky, but it was funny. But I thought Phil was funny because he's the guy that never shuts up. Like in every group, there's a guy like Phil that just never stops talking, and whether he's winning
I'm
or
I
losing, is
I'm that
trash
guy.
talking.
I'm definitely that guy, which is I fully accept that, but I'm not any good at golf, so I'm pretty quiet on the course because my game does my talking, and there's not much to talk about.
And Tiger just kind of reinforced what we thought of Tiger, right? Whenever someone's laughing or trying to get him going, he just gives you a little smile and then sinks a putt or hammers a drive right down the pipe and doesn't say a whole lot. But I thought it was funny, the long drive contest. That was hilarious. He's like, "Oh, dang it, right down the fairway. Sorry about that work
That's
day.
that's all.
Sorry,
That's my
guys."
bad. That's my bad. Now, one thing that Peyton Manning said during this whole thing, which I don't know if it was one of the highlights, but I related to it so much when he was saying that he couldn't wear red and black because those were Georgia
Georgia,
colors. He was like,
that
"Oh,
was
I'm not
great.
letting Kirby Smart use that as recruiting material for Georgia." I related to that. So I don't own anything orange. I don't. I cannot be photographed. I cannot be seen in orange because I. And I'm clearly not Peyton Manning, but when he said that, I was just like, I totally get that. That makes that is my life. I refuse to wear orange. It's just it is what it is.
Well, it's a smart move by you because it doesn't matter if you're at Grand Lake, if you are out at a restaurant somewhere in Oklahoma City. Heck, you could even be in another state. Everyone knows who you are. And if you're wearing orange, they're going to go snap a picture and put it on social media. And the next thing you know, there's going to be 5 million Sooner fans saying, "Dude, what are you doing?" That's the times, man. That's how it
And
goes.
now, honorary winners of the weekend, I thought Justin Thomas and Charles Barkley were fucking hilarious going back and forth. Oh, I mean, but what did Justin Thomas say? I'd like to see your fat ass, dear. I forgot what he said, but it was so damn funny. I didn't know Justin Thomas was a funny guy, and I thought he did a great job. But that whole thing, of course, it was pouring rain the entire time because it's 2020 and we just can't have nice things, apparently. But I thought that, what did it raise, $20 million or something for coronavirus relief? It was a lot of fun. I thought there was a lot more trash talking and back and forth than we were anticipating. It was great. It was great. I enjoyed the absolute hell out of it.
I've got one more thing that I thought was fascinating, and it was in the first maybe 4 or 5 holes of the day. Mickelson was off the green and he was chipping up, and Justin Thomas went over and said, "Well, what are you looking at here on this chip?" And he was talking about, because it's wet, like he typically wouldn't land a chip into the grain, and his
That stuff was
lie
unbelievable. When he
and
was
this,
actually talking golf, you were like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, this guy speaks a different language when it comes to this game.
And it reminds me of like football, because whenever you sit back and watch football, and baseball's the same way, right? Whenever they're talking about how they're going to play the shift and what a guy, where the pitch is going, how the outfielder's going to play, like all the different things that are going on, it just shows you that, like in every sport, there's so many details at the elite level that you never even think of. I'm saying I'm just going to try and chip it up there on the green next to the the pin. That's
What
all I'm
what are
trying
you
to
doing
do.
with this shot? Trying to get it close to the hole. That's
I'm
what
gonna
I'm
hit.
doing.
I'm gonna hit it with this club and try and get it up there next to that pin. I thought that was amazing, and Tiger was even talking about it. Maybe a hole or two later, like they're talking about where they're going to land it on this chip because of the spin, and the ball's going to spin on the green and not bite and stuff. I'm like, it all makes perfect sense. The way they explained it is like, yeah, sure, that's like a winner. But man, just the level of detail on every shot I thought was awesome.
Yeah. Even with golf, it just makes you realize that there's levels to this
Oh yeah.
stuff. I mean, we can have X's and O's football conversations where we'll people will look at us the way that we're looking at each other right now with what Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods were talking about, where you're just going, I got no idea what these guys are talking about, but
Well,
this is
hey,
fascinating.
I could walk up there and look at a ball and look at the grain and look at the lie and factor in the humidity and the spin of the ball and everything. But the problem is I can't do the actual chip good enough for any of that to matter.
I don't
I
know
would
where the
do it
ball's
right,
going to land. Don't
right.
try to make me figure that out.
I would do that stupid little duff that Tom Brady did whenever he was like 5 feet off the green where the ball went about 6 inches. I do that
That
every single time I go to the golf course.
some of those tee shots that they had where, what was it, Tiger Woods was like, yeah, that'll be right in the fairway on 7. I thought that was a great jab, but it was so relatable, which is one of the reasons I think so many people enjoyed watching it, because you had these Hall of Fame quarterbacks hitting shitty tee shots just like the rest of us, and it was pretty fun. And I think for the most part, a lot of people saw those really bad shots from them and were like, yes, that's the
Yeah.
stuff. That's me.
Early on, before Phil got it together and started playing, it looked like Tiger Woods was playing with the group that I golf with at first. It was bad. And that's another lesson to be learned. Never agree to play a round of golf on television when they've got the shot tracker up.
Oh my
It
gosh.
just, you
Meow, meow. Take hard right, hard left, and I can relate with that shot tracker. Oh my gosh, I'm awful. But my loser of the weekend, Teddy, and I know you have a soft spot for these human beings in your heart. My loser of the weekend, kickers. Yes,
know,
kickers, because with some of the things that came out over the weekend about some NFL rule changes, it seems like onside kicks may be getting eliminated. Now, I know they've presented it as an option, another option to the onside kick, but a team would have the option for a 4th and 15 from its own 25-yard line instead of kicking an onside kick. I don't understand why anyone would onside kick instead of choosing 4th and 15. When you look at it, since they changed the rule in 2018, the recovery rate on onside kicks is 10.5%. So not great. I think teams are going to like their odds on 4th and 15 a lot more. Will the onside kick die? And is this the beginning of the demise of kickers in general? Teddy, I know how much you love kickers. They are your favorite. I would say you respect them the most as football players.
No, not football players.
Oh, here we
That's the
go.
main mistake. They're not football players. They're a fringe member of the team. That's about it. They're in the picture, and they jog out there on the
A
field.
fringe member of the team. That is so disrespectful.
Would you like to hear my advice for kickers? It's short and sweet. 3 words. Learn to code. Kicking is gone. Find a new occupation.
In all seriousness,
It's gone, dude.
I think when you look at this could be the beginning of the end of the kicking game. Now, maybe that's too drastic because I'm not sure the field goal will ever
Field
get
goal's always
eliminated.
going to be there, but I mean,
Kickoffs going to get eliminated
there
eventually,
used
right?
to be an advantage to having a kicker with a great leg. Like a great kicker on a kickoff was a weapon. You could sky kick it, you could directional kick. If you needed to, you could put it out of the end zone. You could use the wind to your advantage. Great onside is a great weapon, but they've slowly been changing the rules and eliminating the need for a kicker and how much of an advantage having a great kicker gives you. The field goal thing's always going to be there, I think. I think it'd be strange that they get rid of that, but we've seen what's happened with the extra points. We've seen some of the things that we saw in XFL with the kickoffs that may change. But as soon as they started I got to tell you, the all the rules that have changed after I was out of the NFL would have made my life so much better. I was the center on kickoff return everywhere I played. Okay, and the surprise onside roller where all 11 guys are
Just
in the
where
huddle,
all 11 guys or
just
the
come and
kicker's
destroy.
always trailing behind just a
Mhm.
little bit because, kickers, where they all come give you a concussion at once. Yes,
Yep.
a
It's one of
great
those
position
things.
to
It's
be in.
like, okay, I know what's happening here, and you go in there and dive on that football, and you get missiled in the back of the head by about, every single player on the other team. You just got to say, this one's for the team, and go dive on the ball because here it comes.
No, I'm
But
good.
yeah,
I'm out.
dude, kickers is, to be honest, I would say that the advantage having a great kicker is always going to be there, but they're changing it. And if I'm paying kickers, it's going to come down, 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 down. The less time you're out there, the more of a weapon you are for us. It's going to change how much you're worth to the football team.
I respect the hell out of kickers. I don't think people realize how difficult it is to do what they do, but I do think they're going to start, for the most part, being phased out of football because, frankly, they're involved in the most dangerous plays in a football game. And we know how player safety is in the NFL and in college football now. So, going to be interesting. I fully anticipate that being passed here this week. So, we'll see. We'll definitely see. But let's move on to everyone's favorite segment. We all know you guys are here to hear me and Ted talk about some basketball. So this is Football Guys Talking Basketball, aka FGTB. And unfortunately, FGTB is starting off on a solemn note because Eddie Sutton passed away. Now, he died, sounded like in his home, Tulsa, at the age of 84. Now, luckily, luckily, he got to enjoy, and I know that he's been in rough shape the last couple years, but his family got to enjoy the fact that he was going to go into the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. Now, the enshrinement isn't until August, but at least they got to enjoy that as a family. And I just have to say one thing, and it's bothered me for years. To those people that kept him out of there for whatever reasons, it seemed like it was, some sort of grudge, whatever was going on. I hope those motherfuckers are happy, right? Because instead of getting to go when he was healthy enough and make a speech, and his family being able to enjoy that moment, and all the guys that played for him at Arkansas and Kentucky and Oklahoma State and Creighton, like everyone could have had that moment.
Mhm.
Everyone that was close to Eddie Sutton, that played for him, all these people whose lives were influenced by him could have enjoyed that. And they'll never get to, because of a couple dumb motherfuckers that thought that keeping him out and holding that grudge was so important. I hope those people feel like shit today. I really do, Ted, because it was ridiculous then, and now that he's gone, it's even more ridiculous. It's just, I hope those people are ashamed of themselves, man.
Well, I was one of those that never really understood why or what was going on, and I don't know that anyone truly knows. And the only thing that
What? Because there was an envelope of cash for a guy at Kentucky? Like, really? What? That was that big of a deal to
right.
hold it against him for that long? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, that doesn't make any sense. And I don't care if it's the Basketball Hall of Fame or the uh, NFL Hall of Fame, Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. I think that those stories are supposed to be told in the hall, right? Here's a let me just lay this on the line. This is I know this will come as a huge shock to everyone, but even great players and great coaches are flawed individuals, right?
What?
And yeah, it's weird,
These
isn't
people
it?
are human beings? Are you shitting
Yeah,
me?
human beings that make mistakes and have struggles both on the court, off the court, family lives. But that's part of the sport, and that deserves to be told. That needs to be in the hall. With every person, there's going to come good and there's going to come bad, and they're both part of the story of basketball. And if someone was to come in and view the Basketball Hall of Fame 500 years from now, knew nothing about the sport or the people that were around, Eddie Sutton, his story deserves to be told, both the good and the bad. And that is what these Hall of Fames are supposed to be. So, yeah, I mean, it's incredibly frustrating that a guy this good, that everyone that's in and around the sport agrees should have been in a long time ago. Yes, there's some comfort knowing that he got the news and knew that he had finally been inducted, but it's still sad and frustrating that he didn't get to stand up there, look at a crowd, give him a standing ovation as he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, surrounded by family, loved ones, friends, players that he'd mentored throughout the career that he had. So yeah, it's frustrating for sure.
And, and with how his players talk about him, being a second father, just shaping them as men. Um, that's all I need to know about the guy,
Yeah.
right? We all have our faults. And yeah, maybe he had a drinking problem. So what? So do a lot of people. But the fact that the guy has the 11th most all-time wins with 806 and went to 3 Final Fours and influenced all the people that he influenced and shaped the state of Oklahoma the way that he shaped it. there as the head coach at Oklahoma State and taking those two teams to the Final Four. I just hope that people remember him for the great things he did,
Yeah.
because we all mess up. We all got our problems. And it makes me just so angry that those people did that to him for so many years. It's just it's ridiculous. But he's
Here's
in a
a
better place now, man. In a
Yeah.
better place. So that's what you just got to keep reminding yourself that, he had lost the ability to speak for a while now, and I'm sure he's talking X's and O's upstairs, baby.
Here's what I think is interesting. You can tell a lot about who a person is in the sports world by what their rival says about them, right? And with Eddie Sutton, I've seen Sooner fan after Sooner fan after Sooner fan say, I respected this guy more than any other coach that Oklahoma went up against. Loved watching his teams, loved the way that they competed. So I think whenever your rival is speaking of you in that manner, that says a lot about your true character and truly who you are. And that's because these are people that have hated you forever, right? In the realm of sports. But if they can put that aside and say, yeah, we had a lot of battles out there. I wish we would have won them and you would have lost them. But at the end of the day, I respect you and my hat's off to you. There's really in sports nothing better than that.
Yeah. He's going in the Hall of Fame in August. Thank God. Thank God they did it before he passed. But rest in peace, Coach Sutton. You changed a lot of people's lives in the state of Oklahoma, and you'll never be forgotten for what you did at Oklahoma State and how many people you influenced. One more thing in the basketball world, Ted, the NBA. The NBA officially announced that they are talking with Disney to get back to playing in late July, is what it sounds like, at Disney's ESPN Wide World of Sports complex there in Orlando. Now, the NBA Board of Governors has a call on Friday where it sounds like some of these details for the teams will get worked out and be presented by Adam Silver. But it sounds like players are going to come back to where their organizations are, those cities, and have a week or two of individual workouts at team facilities, and then maybe some sort of mini training camp before they head to Orlando to play in this campus environment. Campus sounds a lot better than bubble, I guess. So they're going with campus, which sure, campus sounds great. Now, it is going to be very interesting to see what happens with some of these players in places like Toronto, right? Where it is a different country, and Canada has a different set of standards right now. New York, Boston. What do those players do? Because I know that they may not want their guys to come back. They may just want to go straight to the bubble, or excuse me, the campus there in Orlando and start doing things with their guys there in a better environment with, less restrictions. But the important part is the Oklahoma City Thunder are coming back, baby. This season is going to get finished. Now, we don't know if it's going to be they play the rest of the season, regular season games included, and they finish it out. Are they going to go straight to the playoffs? Or are they going to play, 5 to 10 games and then go to the playoffs? Are they going to expand the playoffs? What's it going to look like? I don't know. I don't care. All I know is we're going to get to watch Chris Paul and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander finish this thing out and see what this team can do. And that's all we really want.
It's going to be awesome, honestly, to see how it actually takes shape. The way I view it, at least in my head, especially if they start playing some regular season games, is it's going to look a lot like summer league, right? Where they're playing in these gyms and it's just game after game after game where they keep rolling through, which is fascinating. One of the things in sports that you've always got to factor in is home field or home court advantage, and how that influences some of these basketball games. The end of games, especially hitting free throws. I mean, that pressure is still going to be there, but if you're down and you're at home and you need a big stop and the crowd's into it and the place is going crazy, it's hard to communicate out there. That's a big advantage for teams that pack out their house like the Thunder do, and like a lot of these places that are tough to play. It's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic works down the stretch, but I'm all for it. I think it's going to be just fascinating to see how it plays out.
Yeah, just put every game on TV. We'll watch them all. I am curious to see what happens to these teams that are at the bottom of the standings, because this is a lot to go through if you're the Golden State Warriors right now, who are sitting at 15-50, which is just ridiculous.
If you remember, Golden State quit before anyone in the country did anything when it came to the
They're
coronavirus.
like, we're out.
They said, we're out.
We're done. We're done. And so
they conducted postseason exit interviews right then. It was funny.
Well, you just think about, Cleveland, Atlanta, Golden State, Minnesota, these teams that, they're playing for ping pong balls. They want to lose. I'm not sure, but do they want to have to go through this entire process and play a couple games when they got no chance of going to the playoffs? I don't know. Of course, I'm sure the players want to get paid. That's the one thing I got to keep reminding myself is, hey, these guys are going to want to get paid. So that'll be really interesting. And then you have the regional sports networks angle of everything. Those contracts have to get fulfilled. You got to play some more regular season games, it sounds like, but I think they'll be able to work all of that out. I think the NBA is going to do what will make them the most money. And I know that sounds cold maybe, but you got to capitalize on this entire situation. I know that some sports leagues are back, but I'm only going to watch so much German soccer, Ted. I want the NBA back, and I want it all, and I think they're going to capitalize on this opportunity. And if it's mid-July, late July, don't care. Sign me up for all the NBA games.
Right. Well, here's what I think we forget as sports fans whenever we're watching, our favorite football teams professionally play or our favorite professional basketball team play, that the NBA is not about crowning a champion. The NBA is about making money. That's why the league is there. The league is to make money.
It's about the love of the game and the glory of sport and teamwork and everyone getting along and learning life lessons. No, it's about money. Yes, right. It's a business. It's about money. Business.
It's about making money. It's about selling tickets and selling advertising and selling your product to generate revenue, which pays the players, which pays the coaches, which pays all the staff and the owner. And a lot of people get a piece of the pie. And the problem is this year, you're not going to be able to make everyone whole. You're not going to be able to get close to making everybody whole as far as your TV partners and obviously your local venues and all the businesses that are affected. I mean, think about Oklahoma City. When they put that Chesapeake Arena around there and the Thunder came to town, it revitalized an entire city. All the real estate down there, the bar scene, the restaurant scene, it was a lifeblood for that, and that's all been taken away. And that's the same in every city. So you're not going to be able to make those people whole, but you are going to be able to put out a product that people are going to watch. You're going to be able to sell some amount of advertising and generate some revenue for these guys, get the players paid, get the coaches paid, have the fans that are attached to these teams not completely forget that they exist and lure them back in a little bit before hopefully you play a little bit more of a normal season next year. So I think it's a positive. I think it's a great step in a direction that we still all really need for college football. I mean, that's the more of these things that continue to happen, the better it is for college football and the NFL.
Yeah, I knew you mentioned the next season for the NBA. We can't lose sight of that, right? Because a large part of me believes that this is a blessing in disguise for the NBA. And a lot of people have talked about it, but does this give them the motivation they've needed, the excuse that they have needed to not start their season until December? So they're not competing with college football and the NFL, and they do better when it comes to ratings. I think there's a very real possibility that all happens, and it's because this whole weird coronavirus thing happened. So I
Well,
don't know what Adam Silver's thinking, but anytime basketball can avoid competing with football in the United States, that's a good thing for basketball. I truly believe that.
yeah. Was it the 11-12 season that started at Christmas
Yeah, something
opening?
that I mean, that sounds right.
I think it
I'd
was
have
that
to.
season. And I thought it was awesome. I think opening day was Christmas Days whenever they started, right? They had just a couple of rollout games on Christmas Day. It was really cool. It's whenever football's in its downtime, the bowl season, it's everything's spread out a little bit more. So there was a lot of attention on NBA for a couple of days. And I think it was a great way to really kickstart their season. So yeah, I do think that's interesting. I mean, are they going to change the calendar, move the thing back? I mean, I don't know, but I do agree with you that if they could roll this thing out on Christmas, I think that's a great opportunity for the NBA to gain some market share.
I think it would be good for basketball, and
Yeah.
we all know how basketball is growing across the world. It seems like it would be good for everyone, right? Football
Yeah.
would have its time. They wouldn't have to worry about the NBA, and who knows how much crossover there is there when it comes to fandom. I think there's quite a bit, but yeah, I, I think that the NBA would love not to have to compete with the NFL and college football. I think it would be best for them from a business perspective. And remember, it's all about making money. So
Right.
we'll see. That's something that we're going to monitor for sure.
I,
Now,
I hope I hope the Thunder can regain the magic they had as the season was
it was
closing down.
fun to watch.
But I mean, that's what I think is. I feel like a team like the Thunder that
what what
had been a
happens if they
working.
win it all?
Oh,
I
it
mean,
didn't count. Asterisk season.
oh my ass! I'll
I'm just telling you, that's what would be said.
I will be walking around downtown Oklahoma City, drunk as can be, crying my eyes out, happy tears, Ted. I don't care. It doesn't matter if it's the coronavirus season. It doesn't. Hey, if the Thunder win a championship, I don't care what the circumstances are. Does not matter.
I'm telling you,
I
man,
will celebrate.
if they shorten this thing to where they do, I don't know, playoffs only, and they try and expedite it, and they do like the first round is 3-game series, the next round's 5-game series, dude. When you shorten from 7 to 3 games or 7 to 5 games, a lot of things can happen. I mean, the longer a series goes, the cream rises to the top and the better team usually wins. But over a 3-game stretch, if they were to do that, man, you never know what could happen.
Yeah.
Just got to get
I,
hot.
I would assume they'll do all 7-game series, but who knows? I
Yeah.
mean, that if there's a time to experiment with stuff, this is the time for the NBA. All right, Ted, let's finish up with our segment highlighting what's going on in the great state of Oklahoma. We call it Keeping It Local, and we have an update, a surprising update from our Keeping It Local story from last episode. The OSSAA Board of Directors had their meeting. They looked at the association's proposed plan that was a 3-phase plan to get high school sports going here in the state of Oklahoma. And they rejected the proposed plan. And a lot of people thought, okay, they rejected. They didn't think it was maybe strict enough or detailed enough. Oh, no, 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 no. they surprised a lot of people, rejected it, and said high school sports can come back and there are no restrictions, and we're starting June 1st. Now, I understand it sounds crazy to a lot of people. They're saying it's up to school districts, it's up to individual schools to do what's best for themselves. I get that. But I'm not going to lie. When I saw that they rejected the plan and said, hey, you guys can all come back June 1st, no restrictions, Ted, I was fucking shocked.
I was confused. Whenever I saw that they rejected the plan, I was like, oh, well, dang. So I wonder what's going to happen now. It took me a while to realize someone had to like slap me in the face with it and say, no, they're starting right now.
Like
No
they're
restriction.
rejecting all law and
Yeah.
order. They're
I
just
was like,
it's the Wild
oh.
West in this thing. They're coming back, baby.
I was like, oh, okay. Well, now that's interesting. So, hey, I've talked to a couple of people that were happy about it. I haven't talked to anyone that was upset about it. I know those people are out there, but I haven't come across them. My neighbor's a high school baseball coach, and they're getting geared up right now. They're about to, he's going through the process of getting it ready for them and making sure they're safe whenever they roll it out. But they're excited because they had a season taken from them, but they can get back to playing baseball in the summer again, which they usually do, and is a big part of developing their team chemistry and stuff. So I think a lot of people view it because here's the thing, and this was what was proposed to me is like, if the high school sports aren't happening, a lot of these players are going to be playing like, I don't know, summer ball, whatever it is, Legion ball, whatever. I don't know exactly what you call it, but baseball wise, a lot of those guys are going to be playing baseball games anyways. So why not do it with the schools and be able to watch those guys? The same thing with the football. If you're not lifting and conditioning at your football facility, you're probably going to be doing it at a public gym somewhere. And it's kind of the same thing, but this is where those schools get an opportunity to control the environment a little bit. So I think in the
And
grand scheme of things, it's going to be okay.
yeah, well, one of my best friends, Kurt Baldwin, is the strength and conditioning coach, as well as being the defensive coordinator at Bishop McGuinness. And I was talking to him about it, and he was surprised that that was the decision the OSSAA made. But he said they're still going to have, a lot of safety precautions going into it because their guys are going to be working out, and they want to make sure that they're doing the best things for these kids. Now, hopefully, all the schools across the state do stuff like that. I mean, that would be what's best for the kids, making sure that, you're keeping them apart as much as possible while they're lifting and all these things that we're being told by these medical professionals. But maybe some of the schools across the state don't do it, and they just go full send and to say, hey, we're just going to live life as normal. And it'll be really interesting to see what happens if some of the schools take that approach. I know that a lot of schools in the state of Oklahoma are going to be very cautious, right? They don't want to be associated with some sort of big coronavirus
Sure.
outbreak. No one wants that. But high school sports back in the state of Oklahoma, June 1st. All right, Ted, let's get to a Twitter question to finish this thing out. This comes from Tyler Burton on Twitter, at Tyler Burton7. He says, with sports coming back, this is a UFC question. Which former OU teammate would you least like to share the octagon with?
That's a great question. Now, do they have to be a teammate or just like former Sooner? Has to be a teammate?
If it's former Sooner, then it's Kelly Gregg for me.
Yes.
I want nothing to do with KG. That man's back is as wide as a semi, and he was a state champion wrestler, two-timer, three-timer, and could have wrestled in college, and it would be miserable. He would beat the absolute shit out of me. I want nothing to do with Kelly Gregg, but a teammate of mine, I'm trying to remember the guys that had wrestling experience. That's what you avoid.
Yeah.
That's the first thing when it comes to not wanting to get into physical altercations with other human beings. You have to know if they wrestled in high school, because you don't mess with the guys that wrestled in high
No.
school. You just don't. That's the number one rule. I think one guy, because big, had great size, great length, had that Louisiana accent. Frank Alexander was a big dude,
Hmm.
big dude. I'm not sure I'd want that problem in an octagon. Ronell Lewis certainly up there as
Well,
well. You talk about country strong
the
now,
Hammer, man. That's what he ended up doing, right? So yeah,
and
that was
he
going to
got
be my
into MMA. So
yes.
I don't want any part of that problem as well. So I think Ronell Lewis definitely up there. Frank Alexander definitely up. Stacy McGee, woo, and that guy every once in a while talk about a couple screws loose. So
You got to have a screw loose. I mean, that's the thing. You don't want like if you're going to be in the cage, the problem with the fighters is they realize there's a chance they might kill you and they're okay with that. So and that's like a bridge that's
those
hard for me
people
to
are
cross.
insane, man.
So
Those people are nuts.
it's funny, we did a segment one time on our radio show on Sports Talk 1400, and my co-host Tyler asked me like what three former Sooners would you want to take with you for a bar fight? And I said Kelly Gregg number one, and two and three just throw whoever you want to in there for two and three, just some old buddies, so we can sit back and watch Kelly Gregg do his work. And he's like the best. He's a preventative measure. I don't. He's probably never been in a fight because it's like
You can't be mad at Kelly. He's the only human being, and I did that radio show on the franchise with him for 2.5 years. I've never seen the guy in a bad mood ever. So he can just destroy you physically, but he's also like the nicest guy of all time. So it is a perplexing combination.
he's in a great mood all the time because no one ever tries him, right? No one ever, right? I mean, everyone's as nice as they can be because you never know. And there's got to be something that sets him off in there. But if I had to pick which it'd be Kelly Gregg, if I could just pick any former Sooner that I would try to avoid in the octagon. If it was a former teammate, Davin Joseph, who was a
Really?
fantastic wrestler. He was a champion wrestler. His arms are like 8 feet long. He's incredibly strong, super tough guy. He's got a nasty, mean streak. No thank you to Davin Joseph, which is funny because it's a funny story. In spring ball, we were in a live scrimmage once, and we had a blitz called, and they kind of stacked up the blitz, and like someone fell down, so it's kind of turned into a pile. And I'm kind of like on the edge of the pile, and Davin comes and cleans me up and like peels me back off the pile. And it pissed me off, right? He came in. I'm not going to call it a cheap shot, but
Oh, you can call it a cheap shot. It's fine.
I mean, in a scrimmage with teammates, you would think it's a shot that someone
here's
wouldn't take.
here's a good way of looking at hits like this. How much would he have been fined by the NFL for what he did to you?
I don't think he would have been fined. I think it was a legal play. At least he wouldn't have been fined in 2002 or 3, whenever this took place.
How much would he have been fined in today's NFL?
He'd probably be kicked out of the league. No, but it was just a shot that you typically in an environment like that wouldn't take on a teammate. But he took it, which, I was mad then. It really didn't. It wasn't anything. Just in the moment, mad. So I jump up off the bottom, and like I'm going after him.
Who's the dead man that did that?
Oh, I saw it coming. That was the problem, is because where I was caught, I could see him from a couple yards away coming to smash me right in the face. So I jump up and I'm going after him, and BV Venables like meets me at the point and knows that I'm going in against Davin, and BV's like, "Don't go, don't do it." And I hook up with Davin. It turns into like a full team fight, and luckily it was one of those where enough people showed up quick enough to where he didn't tear my helmet off and beat me with it, but that would have happened.
That's yeah. I had forgotten that Davin Joseph was a wrestler.
Yeah, he was
That's a
really
scary
good
combination. A guy that size
Yeah,
that
he's only
has
like
wrestling
330, no
technique.
big deal.
Oh, oh gosh. All right, Ted. Episode 10 in the books.
Double digits, dude. We're
Yep,
flying.
we're flying by. And hey, we're starting to think about, we've had some sponsors reach out. We're trying to decide when to start doing shows with the sponsors. Is it July 1st? Is it August 1st? I don't know. We'll figure it out. Maybe let us know what you guys think. We need all the help we can get, but we're just going to continue to focus on putting good shows out. And I think we've done a pretty good job of delivering you guys some quality local and national sports talk. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop Thursday morning. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 2 to 6 on Sports Talk 1400. You can hear me on SiriusXM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. We hope you all had a great weekend celebrating Memorial Day. Don't forget about the troops that laid it all on the line for our freedoms. We got to always remember the reason for that holiday. It's not just a day off from work. Now, I hope you all have a great week. And until next time, we appreciate you all for listening, and do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.